Welcome back to another class on the Treasures of Mishnayot. We are in Mishnayot of Berachot Perek Gimel, Mishnah Vav. This will be the final Mishnah for chapter 3. The Kahati opens up with an introduction. Before I do the introduction, let me just try to explain to you a few concepts so it'll be easier to understand as we go along and do the Mishnah. We spoke about a Balkari. Right? This whole time we've been speaking about a Balkari. Right? Remember, a Balkari is a person who had a seminal emission. Now, today's mission is going to speak about what happens if you have a Balkari. Now he became Tameh through another thing. For example, he became a Zav. A Zav is a man that he sword discharge. Just like you have by the Balkari, they sword discharge. Over here also he sword discharge. Zav little means to flow, like something coming out of the person. It's going on men. The difference between a Balkari and Zav, there are actually two same things. They both come out from a guy's private place. This is semen. This is also semen. The difference between Balkari and the Zav is this semen is not able to reproduce. It's not able to make children. This semen of a Balkari is able to make children. That's why, which is the stronger one? Which of them is more stronger in tumah? Which of them makes a person tameh more? Where's their, it's a very severe tumah. It's a Zav. Because this tumah is from the Torah. This tumah is from Ezra. He instituted that a Balkari should go to the mikvah and then he's allowed to learn Torah and daven and say barachot and so on and so forth. But by a Zav, if a person is a Zav, let me put it like this. If you have a person who is a Zav without a Balkari, can he learn Torah? Can he daven? Can he say barachot? Absolutely. Not a problem. If you have a Balkari, person who was with his wife, can he learn Torah? Can he say barachot and so on and so forth according to the institution of Ezra? Absolutely not. He's not allowed to say anything until he dips in the mikvah. What happens now? You have a person who is a Balkari and a Zav. He was with his wife the night before, and now he became a Zav the following day. So really he has on himself two impurities. Impurity number one, which is a Balkari. Impurity number two, which is a Zav. We're going to see, the Mishnah is going to explain the Balkari has to still go to the mikveh in order to be able to learn Torah. Because he's not allowed to learn Torah. But for the Zav, you're allowed to learn Torah. But this going to the mikveh for a Balkari is not going to help you for the Zav. He's going to have to wait 7 days. And only then is he allowed to go ahead and become tahor. By going to the mikveh for a Balkari, it just removes the tumah for a Balkari level. But not a Zav tumah level. Because this is from the Torah. I will see this as we go along. We're going to see this. And the same concept we're going to start seeing also. A woman had relations with her husband. Or a woman who had discharge of semen come out of her. All these things are also going to make a woman tameh. Again, not the same tumah when a woman is a nidam. You know something? Let's do this also then. We'll see this right now. A woman had relations with her husband. Rabotai, over here when I'm saying relations with a Balkari, when a seminal discharge, there's other ways it could also come out. I just don't want to say it. I'm just telling you the normal way. But a Zav, it's against his will. His body makes it come out. And if you ever want to understand what is the difference between, I remember learning it, they made a very nice difference. This Balkari, the semen of a Balkari is more like when you have when you beat eggs, it's more white. But the Zav, when you open the egg, just open the egg before the yolk, you have that white liquid. That's how the Zav looks like. This one looks like more with the white part of the egg. It's more like it's basically like the blackboard. But this Zav is more clear. That's why this type of sperm is not able to reproduce. But they're both sperms. Now we also have another problem where you have a woman who is in Nida. And at the same time, this woman she had relations prior to becoming a Nida. For example, let's say she slept with her husband on Sunday night, and then an hour later she became a nida. So this woman, she's called a balkari. Again, she has the semen of a person who planted in her, which is the husband. So she is a balkari. But at the same time, she also became a nida. Which one of them is more severe? Hope you guys see it. Let me just make sure.
Yeah.
Which one of them is more severe? When a woman had a discharge of the carry of the semen, or when she became a nida? Which one of them is more severe? Balkari is the same laws over here. Just like this Balkari is the light form of tumah, so Tori is a light form of tumah. Just like over here, the zav is a heavyweight tumah, so Tori the need is a heavyweight tumah, because remember, these things are from the Torah. But whatever we're going to learn for the Balkari with the zav, we're going to say to the Balkari of a woman with the nida. That means if a woman had relations with her husband the night before, and now she became a nida, she can't learn Torah. She's going to have to first go to the mikvah. When she goes to the mikvah, she's allowed to learn Torah, but that does not make her permissible to her husband, because she has to wait until she becomes complete tahor and do the hefsek tahara, right, the inner checking, and then she has to wait 17 days, and only then can she go to the mikvah. That's what's going to allow her to go to the to be with her husband, but not dipping to the mikvah for balkari. Okay, well, let's try to see this right now inside. These markers are very powerful. Plus, there's low order. Okay. Okay, the Kahati begins in Berachot of Mishnayot in Perek Gimel Mishna Vav. Mishna zo mamshicha be'inyan ba'al-keri. This Mishnah is a continuation in regards to the topic of a ba'al-keri. V'hi ba'al elamdenu, and this Mishnah comes to teach us, she'ba'al-keri sheyesh alav tuma yoter chamura, that if you have a ba'al-keri that has on him a more stringent tumah, like I explained to you with the case of the zav. Okay, go on. Tumah ziva v'chadumeh. For example, when a man had a discharge, and similar to that, Ava pisha tevila mishum keri ein mitaheret oto mitumato. Even though that if this balkari he went and he dipped into the mikvah for this tumah, that's not going to make him tahor for this tumah. Mikobakom, nevertheless, tzarichu tevila mitakanat ezra. Nevertheless, he has to go ahead and he has to dip for this tumah because of the institution of Ezra, because then only can he learn Torah and say berachot. V'chol od she'enu tovel, as long as he didn't go to the mikvah for the balkari, asur l'asok b'divrei Torah u'b'tefillah. It is forbidden for him to learn Torah and to pray Shemona Esrei. V'ilu, however, he says la'achar shitaval, but after he dipped into the mikvah, av shadayin tamehu, even though he's still tameh. Why? Machmat tumah, because of the other tumah, which is the zav. Harehu mutar b'divrei Torah b'tefillah. He's allowed to go now and learn Torah and tefillah, because he really dipped for the carry. So basically, when he goes into the mikvah, it helps him for the carry, but it doesn't help him for the zav. Shalot tukuna takanat Ezra ela ba'al-keri b'lvad, because the whole takan of Ezra was only for Baal-keri alone to go to the mikvah and dip and come out and then learn Torah, but it was not for a zav. V'lo mishum tuma v'tahora ela mitamim acherim, k'mo she'ba'arnu b'hakdamat the Mishna Dalet. And when we tell you that a Baal-keri has to go to the mikvah, it's not because of mishum, it's not because of tuma and tahara. It's for other reasons, like we explained above in the introduction to Mishna Dalet, which was what? To keep the Talmidei Chachamim away from their wives. We didn't want them to be like roosters. That's the Ezra instituted that institution, that because if they know they have to be with their wives and now they can't learn Torah, they have to go to the mikvah, that's going to keep them away from being with their wives, because remember, it was not like today, you go in a 5-star mikvah and you dip. No, you had to go out of your way, which was much harder. The Mishnah begins. Zav shera'a keri. If you had a person who's a zav, remember, Rabotai, when I say Zav, remember, let me just use the language abnormal emission, which is basically a discharge, an abnormal discharge, where this type of sperm is not able to reproduce. A Balkari sperm is able to reproduce. Zav Shira'ah Keri. If you have a Zav who saw Keri, that means this person had an abnormal discharge prior to being with his wife. So he says, Zav Shira'ah Keri, if you have a Zav that saw its seminal mission, Katub Torah, it's written in the Torah, in Sefer Vayikra Perek Tedvav, Pasuk, Bet and Yud Gimel, Ish ki yeh Zav mi basaro. If you're going to have a man where he's going to have a discharge come out from his flesh, Zovot Tamehu, he is impure because of this discharge. V'chi taher Zav mizo, when the Zav is going to become tahor, is going to become pure from the discharge, Koloimer l'chishitzak zivato, when he's going to stop having a discharge, v'safar lo shivat yamim l'tohroto. Now he has to go and he has to count 7 days to his purification. Umikan shazav tameh shivat yamim. From here we see that a zav is tameh 7 days. Now, Rabotai, let me just explain to you like this. Let me make it more practical, something where we can relate to, and then you'll understand this Mishnah better. When a woman becomes a nida, right? Some hold 4 days, halachically according to Shulchan Aruch. Some hold 5 days, and so on and so forth, depending on the woman's body. But let's go with 4 days. It's really only 72 hours. The whole reason why she has to wait 72 hours is because of the husband's zero, because of his sperm that's inside of her, and it takes 72 hours to come out. So that's why we don't want her to do bidika, because let's say a woman had relations with her husband, for example, on Sunday morning. Now, an hour later, she saw blood. Sunday evening, right before sunset, she sees she's not bleeding no more. Technically, she could do a bidika. She could take her middle finger, right, and put it inside her, and she can check, see if there's no blood. She's allowed to do it, but what's the problem? We're afraid that since there's zero inside, there's sperm of the husband inside the wife, it takes 72 hours to come out. We're afraid that when she's going to do the bedika, when she's going to check herself, we're afraid that she's not going to be able to see the blood because of the dilution of the sperm. So halachically, Rabotai, halachically speaking, according to the Shulchan Aruch, if this woman went inside the shower and she washed herself inside there very well, and she sees she stopped bleeding, she's allowed to do the Hefsek Tahara before sunset, right, into Ben Hashmashot, into twilight, and then she's going to check that it's clean. Now she's going to count 7 days, and then on the night she's going to go to the mikvah. So how many days did she really stay away from her husband? In total you can say 7, but really 8 days, let's say, and not like we do today, 12 days or sometimes 14 days. Why am I saying this, Rabotai? This whole reason of why a woman has to wait 4 days is really 72 hours. It's not 4 days, 72 hours. But since a woman can go to the mikvah during the day, that's why we tell her it's 4 days, meaning she has to wait. I'm sorry, since the woman cannot do bidika in the morning, she has to do bidika before sunset. That's just really the 4th day already. In any event, Rabotai, all these are halachot nida. I'm just trying to bring out a point over here. Just like you know by a woman, let's say she saw blood today, now she waited 4 days, and then her blood stopped coming. She did her hefsek tahara, she checked herself before sunset, she sees she's clean. Now what's the next step? She has to count 7 clean days. After the 7 clean days are over, she's allowed to go to the mikvah that night. What happens if the woman saw blood on her white underwear or on her white sheet? It has to specifically be white. During the 7 clean days, what happens? Let's say on the 7th day, 2 hours before sunset, she saw blood, a size of a quarter blood come out on her underwears. What are we going to do on her white underwears? What are we going to do? Because color underwears, they do not accept tumah. We're going to tell you she has to recount again 7 clean days. That's you should always show these stains to the rabbis. Let them make a decision if that's real blood or not. But I'm just trying to bring you a point. Just like you can understand by a woman that the 7th day before sunset, if she sees blood, is going to break her count. She has to start again counting completely 7 new clean days. Same thing with the zav. We have to wait for the zav to stop having this discharge. It shouldn't come out by itself. So once he stops, now he has to wait 7 days. If during those one of the 7 days he sees another discharge, it's going to break his count. He has to start again. Same concept. Same concept by the nida to the zav. Okay. That's he tells you here. That's what from me we learn that a zav is tama, he's impure 7 days. Now he says, what happened if the zav he became a baal keri? Right? Remember what we spoke about over here. Zav became a baal keri. Harehu tzarich tefillah. He needs to go to the mikvah. Kime'uvar l'kama is going to be like explained later on. So number one, we see over here like this. Zav, where is this? Yeah, I'm sorry. Zav shira'ah keri. He needs to go to the mikvah for what? For the baal keri, not for the zav. By him dipping into the mikvah for the keri, makes him tahor for words of Torah, but doesn't still make him tahor in regards to the tumah of the zav. Continues the Mishna. The Mishna says, "V'nida shipalta shichot zero." What happens if you had a woman who was in nida? Now she had a discharge of shichot zero come out of her. She had her husband's sperm come out of her. Ava nida temeh shivat yamim. Even though woman who's in nida over here, she is tameh 7 days. Kimosh katuv, like it's written over there in Perek in Pasuk Yutet. Shivat yamim tiheh b'nidata. 7 days a woman has to be in her state of nida, impurity. V'im hi palta shichot zera mitash mishamita shekadam l'nidata. What happens if this woman, she had the zera come out of her from having relations with her husband before she became a nida? Because remember, Rabotai, one of the cases we were saying, what happens if she was a nida and then zera came out of her? She asking me, how could that be, Rabotai? Let's say the husband slept with her a day earlier. Now she became a nida. Now the sperm is coming out. Okay? But now he tells you, go the other way. What happens if she had the shichot zera come out from having a relation with her husband before she even became a nida? That means she first had the discharge of the baal keri, and then she became a nida. Dina kedin baal keri. Her law is going to be the same halacha like a baal keri. She has to go to the mikvah for the baal keri. The dipping in the mikvah is going to help her to be able to learn Torah and to pray and to say barachot, but it's not going to help her for the state of impurity of her nida state. By going to the mikvah, she's not going to be allowed to sleep with her husband because of nida. She still has to wait 7 days. Continues the Mishna. It says, "Va'mishameshet mitata," one who has relations with her husband. Shidina ki baal keri, that we explained that her halacha is like a baal keri. Shera'ata nida, she saw blood. Shela'achar shimsha ra'ata dam nida. After she had relations with her husband, once the sperm went inside of her, after that, say 10 minutes later, she became a nida. So one more time, va'mishameshet mitata, one who has relations with his, a woman has relations with her husband. We're going to say that her din is like a baal keri, that she has to go to the mikveh in order to be able to learn Torah. But now he said, what happens if this woman had a relation with her husband? Now she ra'ata nida, she saw nida. Shela'achar she shimsha ra'ata dam nida. After she had a relation with her husband, she saw the blood of nida. Kol elu, all of these that we mentioned with the zav, shira'ah keri, or nida that had zera come out of her, or one who had relations and then she became a nida. In all of these cases, kol elu tzrichim tevilam. All of these cases, they need to go ahead and they have to dip into the mikvah. For what? L'divrei Torah or l'tefillah, kitakanet Ezra mishum hakeri. They need to dip for words of Torah, for words of tefillah, like the enactment of Ezra because of keri, because of the sperm. Even though by her going into the mikvah, it doesn't purify her from her tumah state of either being a nida or him from his ziva state, like we explained in the introduction to our Mishnah. Nevertheless, we're going to tell you they have to go ahead and they have to dip into the mikvah for words of Torah and tefillah. So all we're saying over here is like this. It doesn't matter, Rabotai, what the situation is. If a guy is a zav, or if a woman is a nida, they're allowed to learn, they're allowed to say berachot. But what happens if they became Baal Keri? The guy, he became Baal Keri, she had the sperm of the husband come inside of her, or she gave a discharge in any one of these cases, even though they became a nida later and he became a zav later, doesn't matter. Once you have a combination of a Baal Keri and a zav, or a nida and a Baal Keri, meaning has sperm inside of her, in any of these combinations, we're always going to tell them you have to go ahead and you have to dip inside the mikvah. Why you have to dip if it's not going to purify me from the state of impurity for the zav and for the nida? Because again, you shall tumahs 7 days. You're right. We're doing that only because of the enactment of Ezra to allow you to learn Torah and pray and say berachot. Rabbi Yehuda poter. Rabbi Yehuda says you're patur from going to the mikvah. Rabbi Yehuda poter kulam mitvila machmat keri. Rabbi Yehuda says everybody is exempt from the tvila because of keri. Ben shekvar nitchayvu b'tvila kodem shenitma'u b'tumat acheret. Whether you're going to say that they already became obligated in the tvila before they became tam with another tumah. For example, he became first a Baal Keri and then he became a zav. Kigon Baal Keri shel aziva. For example, a Baal Keri who saw a ziva discharge. V'ameshamesh sherat nida, or a woman who had a relationship with her husband and now she became a nida again. All these things precede that. Her tumah of a Baal Keri preceded the more severe tumah of ziva and nida. Whether you can look at it from that angle, then whether shatumah ha'acheret kadma lekeri, the other tumah preceded the keri. Kigon, for example, zav shirah keri, a zav, he saw keri, he was a zav, and he saw simul mission. V'nida shepata shechotzer, a woman who was a nida, and now she had semen come out of her. In all of these cases, Rabbi Yehuda is going to tell you they're completely patur. What the Tanna Kama told us you have to go and you have to do for the keri. Rabbi Yehuda says absolutely you don't have to do nothing. You see keri, ziva, nida, doesn't matter. You never have to go to the mikvah. You're allowed to learn Torah. You're allowed to daven. You're allowed to say all the berachot, no problem. The kvar hizcharnu we already mentioned shebatlat tvilat ba'al keri bichlal. We already mentioned that the tevila of the Baal Keri was completely nullified. Why? Because this enactment did not spread throughout all the Jewish people. And the majority of the congregation were not able to hold this takana, this institution. Therefore, we can't apply it today. And that's, by the way, the halakha, that if a person had relations with his wife, or the wife had semen come out of her, even when she had relation with her husband, we're going to tell you, you're allowed to learn Torah, and you are allowed to daven and say berachot. It's just what, Rabotai, by men we have to be careful that the sperm cannot be moist. I mean, by the woman it's all the way inside, but if it does come out, it's a different ballgame also. So you have to be clean, Rabotai, basically, so the sperm should not be on a person. If it's dry, it's not a problem. But if it's moist, it is a problem. In any event, we have concluded Baruch Hashem Perek Gimel completely. Congratulations. It's a very big accomplishment. Little by little, you have to understand, there's a Chacham Ovadia said that if you take, I don't have a quote on me. No, that's actually do something. No. Okay, but you guys, if a person has a quarter, you take a quarter today and another quarter tomorrow and another quarter tomorrow, eventually you're going to have a lot of money. Same thing with Torah. One line here, one sentence there, one paragraph here. Eventually you're going to finish a lot of sefarim. That's why it's very important to always do little by little and look at what you can get accomplished. In any event, Rabotai, congratulations. Have a great day.